Hey everybody, Whitney Labrie here, and this is Tips and Tricks Tuesdays, and today we're going to talk about wallpaper. So this is just going to be a very basic wallpaper tutorial, and if you are a wallpapering expert, feel free to list your own tips and tricks in the comments of this video so that others like myself may learn from you. Feel free to do that. So let's get started. So if you're new to doll housing and you are wanting to do some sort of fun wallpaper instead of maybe just a traditional painting of your walls, then this is a good video for you. So you have either purchased a dollhouse or maybe you just have a room box. So let's talk about the wood inside your dollhouse or room box. Now, first of all, before you wallpaper it, you really need to seal it. And you can do that a couple different ways. You can actually use a wood sealer if you want. You can also use a white latex or acrylic paint. The main thing is just that you need to seal in the wood so that when you apply the paste to your wallpaper, it won't absorb into the wood. And the main difference really between acrylic paint and a latex paint is just that acrylic paint is more chemical based and latex paint is water based. You can use either though for the process of sealing the wood. Some people feel that latex is better. I have done acrylic and it's fine. The other reason why you want to paint the walls, you want the wallpaper colored, especially lighter wallpapers, to really show. And so if you have a really dark background, like a wood background, then the color in your wallpaper won't show as well. And the other thing is that if you're going to apply wallpaper on a already painted wall, like if you're refurbishing a dollhouse, like in my case, the wall was painted yellow, so I went ahead and painted it white so that when I added the wallpaper, it would just be a really nice clean background for the wallpaper coloring to really show through. Once your wall is nice and primed and ready to go, this would actually be the point that if you're going to wire your dollhouse, this would be the time to do that. And so you would go ahead and put in your tape wire or whatever wiring system that you're using. But in this example, we're not going to be wiring this area that I'm doing. So the next step then would actually be choosing the wallpaper. When you choose your wallpaper, you need to make sure that you're getting prints that match the scale that you're working in. So if you're doing a 1 inch, a 1/2 inch, a 1/4 inch, or like a Barbie scale or play scale, you need to make sure that the print works. With that being said, there are some more modern wallpapers that have a larger print that would work well. Let's say if you're doing a more modern dollhouse in a 1 inch scale, you could probably do a larger scale dollhouse paper. But just keep that in mind that you want to be purchasing the right scale. There are plenty of made-for dollhouse wallpapers that you can buy in the dollhouse shops and hobby shops, and even online. You can now do digital downloads, of course. But a lot of people like to use scrapbook paper, which is totally fine. Scrapbook paper comes in so many really fun colors and prints. Just note that dollhouse wallpaper usually comes in sheets that are about 11.5 by 18 or 12 by 18 inches. And scrapbook paper does not usually come in those wider sizes, and so you will have to make sure that you get more scrapbook paper to cover space. Also, in both situations, whether you use real dollhouse wallpaper or scrapbook paper, you'll need to make sure that you get enough of the wallpaper at the very first time you purchase it. The reason for that is because when they run the wallpaper prints and then run it again later, the coloring is not always the same. So if you're doing a dollhouse room and you need 2 sheets, get 1 extra sheet. Same with the scrapbook paper. If you need 2 sheets of scrapbook paper, get 3 or 4 sheets just to make up for any mistakes that you might make, and also because the color run might be different the next time they print those same papers. Now, the first thing that I do when I'm in a wallpaper room is I go ahead and I get out my tape measure and I measure out the size of the walls, and I start with the back wall and I move toward the side walls. Now, a lot of dollhouse paper you can purchase flat, like in a dollhouse shop, but a lot of the wallpaper that you can purchase also comes in a tube form. And so when you unroll them, they will want to roll back up on you. What I do is I actually just use a little bit of blue tape, and you still have to be very careful. Now, even though I'm using blue tape, this does not mean that your wallpaper print is safe from the tape ripping it apart. So on one edge of the wallpaper where there's actually like a seam where it shows the name of the wallpaper, in this case it's Mini Graphics, I've gone ahead and used the blue tape right on top of it, no big deal. But on the other edge where the wallpaper goes all the way to the edge, where the print goes all the way to the edge, I've actually just done a little blue tape and then I've rolled it so it would be like double-sided tape, and I've put it underneath where there is no print and I've taped it directly to the surface. This allows for me to now measure out my wallpaper for cutting. It allows me to make my pencil marks and it'll be much easier to cut. Now, if you have a paper cutter, I would highly recommend using that because it's going to give you some really straight edges. I don't have a paper cutter, so I'm just going to use a ruler and my scissors, and I'm going to make all the cuts that I need based on the measurements that I took. Now, prior to adding any glue paste, one of the things that I like to do is go ahead and put the piece of wallpaper in after I've made my cuts, and I will make sure that it's going to fit just fine. And I'm also going to maybe make a couple little indentation notes like in the corners where the paper is going to fold, and so that'll make it a little bit easier when I put the wallpaper paste on and put it in. It'll go in place a little bit easier. Okay, so the glue that I'm going to use today is called Grandmother Stover's. It is actually a bookbinder's glue, and so it's fantastic for doing wallpaper. It is a stick flat glue. It's transparent when it's applied. It won't curl or wrinkle or discolor any of your wallpapers, and is absolutely an amazing product. I highly recommend it, and I have the link in the description if you're interested in purchasing this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and open it up, and I'm going to take about a nice heavy spoonful here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of warm water, and I'm going to really mix it all together with my paintbrush here until you get like this really creamy finish, as you can see here. All right, now I'm just going to take my paintbrush, my glue paintbrush, and I'm going to just put quite a bit on this back of this piece of wallpaper here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this yellow spatula. It's actually for smoothing dry compound. It's really nice and thin. Now, I have been told that a credit card actually works even better. So I would definitely, if you have an old credit card that's expired and you want to use that, I would say definitely use that. But this worked just fine. And then once the glue is on, I'm just going to spread it out and make sure that I have very even coats. If you miss a spot, that area is going to bubble up on you. So make sure not to miss any spots at all. And then the other thing I would suggest is apply wherever you're doing your project and you're going to be applying your glue. Make sure that your dollhouse or room box and your wallpaper are very close in the vicinity, because this glue will dry pretty quickly on you and it isn't very forgiving. So just keep that in mind. And then once all your glue is on and nice and even, you're going to just go ahead and apply it to your walls. I like to go from the inside out and smooth out toward the edges, and that really helps get all the air out and all the bubbles. And then once it is all in place, you can do a dry cloth rub over just to make sure that everything looks good. Obviously, in a lot of dollhouses, there's windows, and doors also. And so how do you wallpaper over those? Okay, really easy. Don't worry about trying to pre-cut your window holes or your door openings, because honestly, that's just going to be more of a pain in the booty, you know what I'm saying? So just go ahead and wallpaper right over. And also too, in this example, you see how I overcut my wallpaper so that it could go into the corner and onto the next wall. I highly recommend that. That's going to give you these really clean walls without seeing any wood in the corners. However, if you have to do that, that's okay. And anytime there's a seam, you can also always cover it by a small piece of wood if you want, like as a trim, and that looks good too. So go ahead and wallpaper completely over, and then let that wallpaper paste dry completely. Depending on which one you use, it could take a couple hours to fully dry. With the Grandma Stovers, it's really not going to take that long. Maybe like an hour, really 45 minutes to an hour fully dry. It's really great stuff. And then you can just take your really sharp X-Acto knife and go ahead and cut out the window and door area, and that's going to be a really nice clean wallpapered finish. Ceilings, same. If you're going to do a wallpapered ceiling, you will use the same method of measuring, cutting out the pieces, and then gluing them. So in this case with my ceiling paper, I'm using a remnant piece of paper. And so in this case, I'm going to have a little extra on the edge and it's not going to fit. So I'm just going to piecemeal the paper together, as you can see here. And that's fine. Just make sure that you have a really nice clean seam and that the pattern matches up, and it will hardly be even noticeable at all that you used a couple pieces of paper. And so the next step now, after everything is dry, is to go ahead and do your flooring at this time and your trim. And so once all that's installed, you can see that it gives just a really nice finished look. And then once all your trim and your flooring is in place, it's time to decorate. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I hope you learned something today. If you had fun, if you learned something, go ahead and please subscribe, hit like. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, if you have your own tips and tricks for doing wallpaper, go ahead and leave those in the comments too, so others that visit this video and channel can learn from you as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.